Hey guys, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about why combo movements are not good quality hypertrophy movements. So let me lay out the context of this discussion because I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? I love combo moves. And that is so wonderful. I love that you have found movement that you love doing. But just because we love something doesn't mean that it's a good tool for a certain outcome. It's kind of like if you're trying to build a house and a construction worker came in and said, well, I just love a hammer, so I'm gonna use this hammer on everything. It's like, okay, but you know that it's not made for everything, right? You know that there's some outcomes that the hammer's not gonna be good for, right? We're gonna have to use some other tools, like maybe just if we need to cut a straight line, we can't just hammer the wood. Maybe we need a saw at that point. So I think it's really important to understand context. We use the tool for what it does best. So with combo movements, we can use those for conditioning work. We can use those for metabolic work and systemic, whichever you'd like to call it really. But we can use it for that conditioning work, and it can be a powerful tool for that. Now, is it a powerful tool for hypertrophy? No. And let me explain why that is. Hypertrophy is building muscle. So if you have ever seen my before and after picture, I lost about 30 pounds and my arms were just stick thin, and I was kind of disappointed because I'm like, I want to look femininely fit. I really want to look strong. And so I realized that genetically, I didn't have muscle. I had to start from scratch and build. Now there are individuals who genetically, they just have a good muscle build. So they drop body fat and they have great arms that are shapely and look fit and wonderful. Now that's great and wonderful for them. Now the problem is if they don't go through educating themselves, they can just think that whatever they did in the gym, good or bad, is what brought that outcome. And so a lot of times I'll see some really questionable material or really poor exercise selection being preached by people who genetically have some great muscle. But really, that's not what gave them that muscle. And so I think we have to be cautious in who we get information from, and also cautious about the context, because once again, combo moves can be great for cardio conditioning. It's going to be very poor for hypertrophy, and let me show you why. So when we are choosing quality hypertrophy exercises, there are a few things that we need to take into consideration. The weight that we choose needs to match the strength of the muscle that we're trying to work on. So that's going to be really important. So if I am doing, in hypertrophy, we can do rep ranges anywhere between 8 to 15. Most people are going to do really well between 8 to 12, but you can progress a little bit up to about 15, right? So if I'm going to do combo movement and I'm thinking, okay, well, 8 to 10 reps, awesome. And I'm gonna choose something like maybe 20s, because that's a good for like 8 to 10 reps for me. If I'm doing shoulder presses, that's gonna be pretty good. I'm probably gonna progress the load up to maybe my last set's gonna be 30s, because that's my strength, right? So if I want to maybe stay 1 or 2 away from failure or even hit failure at 8 to 10 reps, I'm probably gonna be grabbing 30s on my last set. So here's the problem. If I'm doing a combo movement like a squat to a shoulder press, because that's one that you see often, right? People go down, then they go up, or they hold it like this and they go up, right? So that's a common one. Now here's the problem with that. The dumbbells are doing a great job being matched to the strength of my shoulders, but not to my legs. You see, when I am doing a squat, I'm gonna be doing 150 pounds, 160, 180, 190. That's gonna be my squat at an 8 to 10 rep range. Right now, I just have 40s in my hand. So if I'm going through this movement, my shoulders are getting worked really well, but my legs are not. So by 8 to 10, I could stop doing the shoulder press and keep doing squats, but even then, 40 pounds is not enough tension for me and my strength on my legs to make a difference. My legs are not going to grow by me doing, or my glutes, whatever you want to grow, like quads, glutes. These are not, 40 pounds is not going to create enough tension to create growth on my glutes, okay? Or my quads. I load out a lot more. Or I've seen people do RDLs to a back row and then up. Once again, there's gonna be a mismatch, right? Because when I'm doing RDLs, well, I hit a PR the other day of 225 for 8 to 10 reps. I'm not doing 225 on my back. My back is not as strong. So to create enough tension at my legs, my back, I wouldn't even be able to get the bar back to work my back properly. Do you see the problem here? This is why combo movements are not good for hypertrophy focused training. So if you really want to grow your muscles, then you need to choose a weight that's going to appropriately tax and create the tension and volume that we need on that muscle that you are trying to work. So instead of trying to do 2 and being like, oh, I'm doing so much work at the same time, you're really not. Have you ever tried to do that? I'm a mom, and I always think the same thing, like, I'm gonna do like 2, 3 things at a time in my house so I can do more. And what ends up happening is my productivity on all of those things ends up suffering. If I just choose one and nail it and work at it, I end up getting really good quality work, really of whatever I'm doing in life. And it's no different for hypertrophy. So you are going to be far better off just separating the 2 exercises. So if you want to perform an RDL, awesome. Perform an RDL, but don't add a back row thinking that you're going to do more. Because once again, what I can do for RDLs is way more than what I'm going to be loading my back with. Same thing with squats to presses. This is going to be suboptimal on legs, but could be great for my shoulders. Well, you could even argue that because the momentum generated at the bottom going up could actually end up helping you skip out of a lot of that bottom portion, which is where your shoulders are lengthened, and we do want to create a lot of tension and control there. So even this, creating that momentum to generate and then push up with your whole body, could end up making it suboptimal for your upper body. Same thing with things like bicep curls to lateral raises. I've seen that. Once again, what I can do for bicep curls, I'm doing like 25, 27, 30 for bicep curls. I'm not doing 30-pound lateral raises, guys. I was stoked out of my mind the other day when I was able to do 20-pound lateral raises just for like 4 or 5 reps. So once again, one muscle group would suffer if you're trying to do multiple things at a time. So when the goal is hypertrophy, when the goal is body recomp, losing a little body fat, and still being able to put on a little muscle, you have to be really smart with your training, right? Because you're in a caloric deficit. It's not going to be as easy to put on muscle. Putting on muscle in general takes a lot of time. So if you're in a calorie deficit and trying to get as much muscle growth as possible, then you need to be really smart with your training. And you need to get rid of these suboptimal combo moves, or lately I've been seeing this like bicep curl to like out and then down. And I'm like, what is that? That's just movement for the sake of movement. There's no reason why for biceps you should be adding in some external rotation. So I know people just love being creative, but a lot of times this creativity can actually hinder the outcome, especially if maybe you're a hard gainer and you have a harder time putting on muscle mass. So hopefully this video has been able to really help you understand why in any of my hypertrophy training, you're not going to see combo moves being used, because they are not going to be the best bang for your buck.